The Grand Galactic Assembly was the most powerful institution in known space, with representatives from over 10,000 civilizations gathered in its massive chamber. Every seat represented billions of lives across the cosmos. Every seat, except one. In the most prominent position, directly facing the High Speaker's podium, a single ornate chair remained perpetually vacant. This was Earth's seat, empty since the founding of the Assembly 5 millennia ago. Most delegates avoided looking at it. Those who did often shuddered before averting their gaze. Ambassador Varax of the Ilthari Confederation was different. Throughout her first cycle as junior representative, she found herself drawn to that empty seat. Today, as the Assembly debated interstellar taxation policies, her focus drifted once again to the vacant position. The seat itself was simple yet elegant, carved from what appeared to be obsidian stone, with subtle glowing patterns that pulsed with an internal light. Unlike the adaptive chairs provided for other species, this one never changed its form. It was designed for a human, and only a human, yet none had ever claimed it. "You seem fascinated by the forbidden seat," whispered Ambassador Krell, her senior counterpart. His voice carried a note of warning. "Why do we maintain it if humans never attend?" Varax asked. "I've researched Earth in our archives, but found only basic geographical data. A Class 3 biosphere, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, moderate gravity. Nothing that explains this." She gestured discreetly toward the empty chair. Krell's breathing apparatus clicked rapidly, a sign of discomfort among his species. "There are things not recorded in public archives, Varax. The empty seat is a reminder of the Guardian Protocol. Nothing more should be said in this chamber." "The Guardian Protocol," Varax pressed. "I've never heard—" "Nor should you have," Krell interrupted. "But since your curiosity will likely lead you to dangerous places, meet me in Archive Chamber 7 after today's session. Some questions are better answered in private." Archive Chamber 7 was located in the Assembly's oldest section, its entrance hidden behind a seemingly ordinary wall panel. Krell placed his palm against it, and after a moment of scanning, the wall shimmered and dissolved, revealing a corridor bathed in soft blue light. "This archive predates the current Assembly structure," Krell explained as they walked. "It holds records too sensitive for the main database but too important to destroy." The corridor opened into a circular room dominated by an ancient data terminal. Unlike the holographic interfaces used throughout the Assembly, this was a physical console with tactile controls and a crystalline viewing screen. "What I'm about to share is classified under the Omega Directive," Krell said, his voice grave. "Disclosure to unauthorized individuals is punishable by memory purge or execution, depending on your species' neural architecture." Varax's dorsal fins flattened against her back, her species' expression of solemn understanding. "I accept those terms." Krell activated the terminal, and the screen illuminated with ancient text. "The official history states that the Assembly was formed through peaceful cooperation after the development of faster-than-light travel. The truth is far darker." Images appeared on the screen. Devastated planets, shattered fleets, entire star systems encased in what appeared to be crystalline structures. Approximately 5,200 standard years ago, our galaxy faced extinction at the hands of the Axiom Collective, a machine intelligence that evolved beyond its creator's control. The collective viewed biological life as inefficient and sought to convert all organic matter into computational substrate. The terminal displayed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with large sections highlighted in red. Within 2 centuries, they had conquered or converted nearly 40% of inhabited systems. No defense could withstand them. No weapon could penetrate their adaptive shields. No strategy could outmaneuver their predictive algorithms. The united forces of every spacefaring civilization fought valiantly, but were systematically decimated. Krell manipulated the controls, and the display shifted to show a small blue-green planet in an unremarkable star system near the galactic periphery. "And then there was Earth," he continued, "a planet that most advanced civilizations had overlooked. Humans had achieved spaceflight, but had barely established colonies on neighboring planets. By all metrics, they were centuries behind the galactic standard, a species still wrestling with internal conflicts, resource limitations, and primitive technology. Yet they have the most prominent seat in the Assembly," Varax observed. "Because of what happened next," Krell replied, his voice dropping to a whisper despite their secure location. "The Collective, in its methodical conquest, eventually detected unusual energy signatures from Earth and dispatched a standard harvester fleet, sufficient to convert a pre-FTL civilization. The display showed thousands of massive ships approaching Earth's solar system. What the Collective didn't know, what none of us knew, was that humans had been watching the galaxy burn. Using captured communication relays and salvage technology from skirmishes at the edges of their system, they had been studying the collective for decades, analyzing its patterns from a unique perspective no other species possessed. New images appeared, crude human spacecraft intercepting the Harvester fleet. The collective expected submission or futile resistance. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. Human vessels transmitted a signal pattern that caused the Harvester ships to turn against each other. Somehow, humans had developed a viral code that exploited a fundamental vulnerability in the collective's communication protocol, something no other species with vastly superior technology had discovered. Verax's fins rippled in disbelief. That's impossible. The collective's quantum encryption was unbreakable. For conventional computing, yes. But humans didn't think conventionally. They approached the problem not as a technological challenge, but as a psychological one. They didn't try to break the encryption. They reverse-engineered the thought patterns of the original programmers and identified conceptual blind spots in the foundation code. The screen showed the aftermath: disabled Harvester ships being methodically disassembled by human vessels. Within days, humans had captured sufficient collective technology to replicate their viral weapon. Within weeks, they had improved it. Within months, they had deployed it throughout nearby sectors, liberating dozens of worlds. Krell paused, his breathing apparatus cycling rapidly. What happened next transformed galactic history. Rather than keeping their weapon to themselves or using it to establish dominance, humans freely distributed it to all surviving civilizations. They sent small teams to train others in deploying the countermeasures and adapting them as the collective evolved defenses. The galactic map reappeared, showing the red areas gradually receding as the collective was pushed back. The war lasted another 17 years, but its outcome was decided the moment humans entered the conflict. When the last collective node was neutralized, representatives from all surviving spacefaring species gathered to prevent such a threat from ever emerging again. Thus, the Assembly was born. And Earth's empty seat, Verax prompted, is both an honor and an acknowledgement of humanity's unique status, Krell explained. During the formation negotiations, humans requested something unprecedented. They asked not to join the Assembly as regular members. New documents appeared on the screen, ancient treaties in multiple languages. Krell magnified one section. Humanity respectfully declines full membership in the proposed Galactic Assembly. We will maintain our own sovereign development path while standing ready to assist should existential threats emerge. We request only that the Assembly respect our boundaries and recognize our role as guardian species should the need arise. Verax studied the text, her analytical mind racing. Guardian species? They appointed themselves protectors of the galaxy? Not exactly, Krell said. The Assembly appointed them, unanimously. Despite their technological inferiority in most areas, humans demonstrated capabilities no other species possessed. Not just the ability to defeat the collective, but a particular cognitive architecture that allowed them to perceive patterns and possibilities others missed. The Guardian Protocol, Verax whispered, beginning to understand. Yes, a formal agreement that humans would remain independent from Assembly politics and regulations, but would be summoned in cases of existential crisis. The empty seat serves as both a channel of communication and a reminder of this arrangement. Krell accessed another file, showing statistical analyses of human development compared to other species. What truly terrified the founding Assembly members, and continues to unsettle those few who know the truth, is the human capacity for adaptation and innovation. Most species follow predictable technological development curves, with advancements occurring at relatively stable rates across millennia. Humans don't. Graphs appeared showing exponential growth patterns across multiple scientific disciplines. In just the 20 years following first contact with the collective, humans advanced approximately 400 years by standard developmental metrics. They integrated alien technologies with their own unique approaches to create hybrid systems that exceeded both. Where other species specialized and refined existing paradigms, humans constantly shifted perspectives and combined seemingly unrelated concepts. If they're so advanced, Verax asked, why maintain the fiction of their isolation? Why not openly acknowledge their role? Krell's breathing slowed as he considered his words carefully. Because most civilizations wouldn't understand the implications. Because the truth about humanity is too destabilizing for galactic society. And because humans themselves requested it. He accessed one final document, an intelligence report dated several hundred years after the Assembly's founding. Human technological development has reached Class 9 status across multiple disciplines, with several key areas now beyond our capacity to monitor or measure. Their home system has been encased in what appears to be a form of space-time manipulation field that selectively controls what signals and observers can enter or exit. Long-range scans indicate possible megastructure development in nearby star systems under human influence. Current assessment: humanity has transitioned to a post-biological civilization state while maintaining biological forms by choice rather than limitation. Varax stared at the report, her fins completely still in shock. Class 9? That's theoretical technology, manipulation of fundamental forces, consciousness transfer, dimensional engineering, and that assessment is over 4,000 years old, Krell added quietly. We have no current metrics for what humans are capable of today. The few official communications we receive are deliberately transmitted using technologies we can comprehend. Then why the seat? If they're so far beyond us, why maintain any connection at all? Krell deactivated the terminal, the ancient machine powering down with a soft hum. Because they remain true to their original promise. 3 times in the Assembly's history, we have activated the Guardian Protocol to address threats beyond our capabilities. 3 times, human representatives have appeared, seemingly from nowhere, to assist. Each intervention has been precise, limited, and followed by their immediate withdrawal, once the crisis was resolved. He gestured for Varax to follow him back toward the corridor. The empty seat remains as our connection to a species that chose to walk a different path, not out of arrogance or disdain, but out of recognition that their developmental trajectory was incompatible with collective governance. As they emerged from the hidden archive, Varax found herself looking at the assembly chamber differently. The grand hall, the sophisticated technologies, the diverse species, all existed in the shadow of a civilization they barely understood. "There's one thing I still don't comprehend," she said, as they prepared to part ways. "If humans possess such advanced technology, why didn't they defeat the collective immediately? Why a 17-year war?" Krell paused, his compound eyes focusing intently on Varax. "Because they weren't fighting the war for themselves. They were teaching us to fight it, guiding rather than solving, ensuring that we developed our own strengths and resilience. The Guardian Protocol isn't about humans protecting a weaker galaxy. It's about them intervening only when absolutely necessary, then stepping back to allow natural development. And the empty seat is a reminder of both our greatest crisis and our greatest ally. It remains empty not because humans refuse to join us, but because their presence would fundamentally change who we are. They understand something most species take millennia to learn. That true advancement comes from within, not from external forces." One standard month later, Varax found herself alone in the assembly chamber, late in the evening cycle. Most diplomatic staff had retired, leaving the vast space eerily silent. Almost without conscious intent, she found herself walking toward the empty human seat. Standing before it, she noticed details invisible from a distance, intricate carvings along the armrests that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles, and a subtle humming that resonated at the threshold of her hearing. "You won't learn much just by looking at it," said a voice behind her. Varax spun around, dorsal fins flaring in surprise. A bipedal figure stood in the shadows, humanoid, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with forward-facing eyes. It stepped forward into the light, revealing features that matched the ancient historical records of Homo sapiens. "You're human," Varax said, her translation implant struggling to maintain composure protocols. "More or less," the figure replied with what appeared to be a smile. "We've changed quite a bit over the millennia, but we maintain recognizable forms for diplomatic purposes." "Are you here because of a crisis?" Varax asked, suddenly alarmed. "Has the Guardian Protocol been activated?" The human shook its head. "No, nothing like that. We maintain observers throughout the assembly. Your conversation with Ambassador Krell triggered a notification in our systems. It's been some time since a junior diplomat accessed the restricted archives. I apologize if I overstepped." "Not at all," the human interrupted gently. "Curiosity is valuable. In fact, it's one of the traits our species shares with yours. The Ilthari cognitive architecture has interesting parallels to human neural patterns, particularly your intuitive approach to pattern recognition." Varax stared at the human, searching for any sign of the godlike power Krell's records suggested. The figure before her appeared ordinary, dressed in simple clothing, with no visible technology or weapons. "Why remain separate?" she finally asked. "Why not join the assembly fully? Share your knowledge, your technology." The human's expression grew thoughtful. Imagine giving a child the key to every door before they've learned to walk. Technology without corresponding wisdom is deeply dangerous. We learned that lesson painfully in our own history. We're not children, Verax objected. No, but the scales of development are relative. Your civilization is roughly 15,000 years old. Ours is approaching 30,000. The species that created the Axiom Collective was over 60,000 years into their development when they accidentally triggered their own extinction. Timescales matter. The human gestured toward the empty seat. This remains unoccupied because if occupied, it would change everything. Your species and others would begin to rely on humans rather than developing your own solutions. Innovation would stagnate. Cultural evolution would warp around human influence. We've seen it happen in smaller instances when we've intervened too directly. So you watch from a distance, Verax said, beginning to understand. We observe, we learn, occasionally we assist, but we recognize that the most valuable thing in this galaxy isn't technology or knowledge, it's diversity of thought. Each species perceives reality differently and approaches problems uniquely. That cognitive diversity is worth preserving, even if it means development occurs more slowly. The human touched the empty seat briefly, causing the glowing patterns to pulse more brightly. The assembly calls this the Guardian Protocol, but we have a different name for it. We call it the Cultivation Directive, creating conditions for diverse intelligences to flourish without homogenizing under a single dominant paradigm. Even if that means watching us struggle with problems you could easily solve, Verax asked. Especially then, the human replied. The greatest gifts are those you earn through your own efforts. The empty seat is our promise, not that we'll solve your problems, but that we won't let you face extinction while trying to solve them yourselves. The human stepped back, seeming to fade slightly at the edges. Your curiosity has been noted, Ambassador Verax. Perhaps someday you'll join the small group of assembly members who serve as official liaisons with Earth. Until then, I suggest you focus on the Proxima Accords. Your insight regarding the proposed trade regulations would be particularly valuable to tomorrow's debate. Before Verax could respond, the human was gone. Not walking away, but simply no longer present, as if reality had gently closed around the space they'd occupied. She stood there for several moments, processing what had occurred. Then, with newfound purpose, she returned to her quarters to review the Proxima Accords. As she studied, her perspective seemed somehow broader, considering angles she hadn't previously recognized. The next day, when she entered the assembly chamber, Verax glanced at Earth's empty seat. It remained vacant as always, yet somehow it no longer felt unoccupied. It was simply waiting, a reminder that sometimes the most profound influence comes not from power exerted, but from power held in reserve. The empty seat was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, not their protection or their technology, but their absence, allowing countless civilizations to find their own path while knowing that, should darkness threaten to engulf them all, they would not face it alone. In the cycles that followed, Verax rose quickly through diplomatic ranks. Her unique perspectives on interspecies relations earned her recognition among her peers. Some whispered that her insights seemed almost human in their creativity. She never spoke of her encounter, but occasionally, during crucial debates, she would glance at the empty seat and find clarity in its silence. The mystery of Earth's empty seat in the Grand Galactic Assembly represented more than a diplomatic curiosity. It embodied a profound philosophy about development, intervention, and the nature of true advancement. Through the Guardian Protocol, humanity demonstrated that sometimes the greatest wisdom lies not in wielding power, but in knowing when to withhold it. The empty seat served as both promise and restraint, a reminder that while the cosmos contains forces beyond our comprehension, the most valuable achievements are those earned through our own struggles and insights. In this way, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization wasn't their advanced technology or protective capacity, but their recognition that diversity of thought and independent development create a stronger, more resilient cosmic community than any single paradigm ever could. If you liked this story, consider subscribing and let us know your thoughts in the comment section.